The Interstellar Shuttle Vanguard 9 hummed quietly as it glided through the vast emptiness of Sector 42. Inside, the cabin was dimly lit, the artificial gravity humming like a distant heartbeat. Rows of seats lined the vessel, most of them empty, but those occupied radiated an invisible tension. All eyes seemed to steer clear of a single figure. He sat in the corner of the shuttle, huddled in his worn, metallic blue jacket. His hair was unkempt, his features sharp, but there was something almost alien about him, his pale, grayish skin, the slight shimmer in his eyes, the faint lines of circuitry running along his temples. People whispered when he passed, or when he settled into his seat, as though proximity to him might contaminate their own energy. No one would sit next to him, not even when the cabin was half empty. His name was Corin Vex. He was a researcher from the outer colonies, a man of genius, but also of mystery. Officially, he worked on xenobiology projects, studying alien flora and fauna, but rumors swirled about his methods. Some said he had experimented on sentient species. Others whispered that he had survived incidents no one else could explain. The crew avoided him, and fellow passengers kept a wide berth. In social spaces, he seemed to exist in a void, a man alone in a universe that wouldn't touch him. For Corin, this isolation had long become a comfortable companion. He had grown used to the pointed glances, the subtle shuffles when someone boarded near him. He never tried to interact. No one had ever tried to interact with him. That is, until the shuttle passed through the Nebula 7X turbulence field. The cabin lurched violently. A scream echoed from near the cockpit as unsecured cargo tumbled across the aisle. Corin's seatbelt snapped tight, and he gritted his teeth, holding himself steady. The passengers panicked, clutching their seats and each other. Then a voice rang out, calm but firm. "Everyone, stay put. The turbulence is temporary. The shuttle's shields will stabilize soon." It was a voice unlike the usual squeaky, panic-stricken chatter. Confident, yet soothing. The cabin quieted slightly, the trembling hands loosening their grips. Corin glanced up, startled. The voice belonged to a young woman seated 2 rows ahead, a woman he had noticed earlier. She had chosen a seat in the center aisle, ignoring the whispers that floated around her. Her hair glimmered like starlight, silver strands streaked with violet. Her eyes were a deep emerald green, sharp yet welcoming. She exuded an aura that made people feel grounded, calm, a stark contrast to Corin's own spectral demeanor. The turbulence passed as quickly as it had come. Shaken passengers muttered thanks to each other. Some even shot Corin wary glances, but he avoided their eyes as always. When the shuttle finally reached cruising speed, a strange stillness lingered in the cabin. That stillness broke when the woman walked toward the empty seat next to Corin. His brow furrowed slightly, heart thudding in a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. Nobody had ever willingly moved to sit beside him. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her voice soft but resonant. Corin blinked, searching for hidden sarcasm, a trap, some reason to reject her. But her smile was genuine. Nothing in her expression suggested mockery or curiosity, only acceptance. Sure," he muttered, his voice almost cracking from surprise. She settled in, careful to leave space, yet close enough to offer companionship. She introduced herself as Lyra, an interstellar cartographer on a long-term mission. She laughed softly when Corin mentioned his xenobiology work, though not in a dismissive way. She seemed truly interested. Hours passed as the shuttle drifted through the dark expanse of space. Corin found himself talking, hesitantly at first, about his research, his theories about alien ecosystems, and the dangers of deep space colonies. Lyra listened without judgment, asking questions that showed insight and curiosity. Her presence was like gravity itself, pulling him out of the void he had wrapped around himself for so long. By the time the shuttle began its approach to Colony Theta 9, something remarkable had happened. Corrin had shared a story he had never told anyone, the time he had discovered the crystalline larvae of a luminescent species on the fringe of the Andari system, and how their pheromones had temporarily altered his neural pathways, giving him visions of the universe no one else could comprehend. He had never shared it, fearing disbelief or ridicule. But Lyra had listened, wide-eyed and fascinated. As the landing bay doors opened, the passengers stood, stretching and readying to disembark. Corrin hesitated. This encounter, brief and unexpected, had stirred feelings he had long suppressed, hope, perhaps, or the faintest flicker of trust. Lyra nudged him gently. "I hope we meet again," she said. "I'd like to see more of your discoveries." He nodded, almost dazed. I'd like that too." The weeks that followed were transformative. Corrin found himself looking forward to Lyra's messages, sent via encrypted comlink from her ship as she mapped new star systems. They exchanged findings, discussed theories, and debated possibilities. Through their conversations, Corrin began to understand a profound truth. Connection was not a weakness, it was a bridge. And for the first time in his life, he felt a bridge forming between himself and another being. But not everyone in the colonies welcomed his newfound visibility. Some researchers whispered that his proximity to Lyra compromised his objectivity. A few passengers from the shuttle spread rumors about him, reviving old fears. Corrin's work, his reputation, and even his safety were threatened. It seemed that no matter how far he went, suspicion clung to him like a shadow. Then came the mission that would change everything. The Galactic Council had dispatched Corrin and Lyra to the uncharted system of Karath 12. Reports suggested an alien species, the Zelvans, were building structures of unknown purpose, massive crystalline towers glowing with energy patterns that defied standard physics. Scientists had attempted to study them remotely, but all probes had failed. No one dared approach the towers directly. The Council wanted answers. Corrin and Lyra were paired for this mission. They landed on Karath 12, the planet bathed in a pale lavender light. The surface was rocky, with jagged crystal formations that reflected the eerie sunlight. The towers loomed ahead, impossibly large, their surfaces shimmering with strange symbols. "This is unlike anything I've ever seen," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with awe. Corrin's eyes lit up. "Incredible. These structures, they're not natural. The Zelvans must have constructed them. But why? What is their purpose?" As they approached, the towers pulsed with energy. Sensors overloaded, warning systems blaring. Corrin and Lyra backed away, but one of the towers emitted a harmonic resonance, a sound that seemed almost alive. Lyra instinctively reached out to touch the tower, and the energy rippled through her, leaving her motionless. Corrin rushed to grab her hand, but the tower's resonance reacted violently. Suddenly, the ground beneath them split, and a vortex of energy opened in the sky above the towers. Figures emerged, tall, lithe, translucent beings, their forms shifting like liquid crystal. The Zelvans. The air filled with sound, not words, but emotions, curiosity, caution, recognition. Corrin felt their presence probe his mind, scanning for intent. He froze. The Zelvan's gaze fell upon him, and he felt a recognition he had never expected. "You are of the line of Aloris." The resonance finally formed into words in his mind. "You carry the mark of the bridge." Corrin staggered. He had never told a soul about the Aloris, the ancient lineage of humans said to possess the ability to connect disparate species, to act as mediators between civilizations. Only Lyra had heard his story, and even then, only fragments. He hadn't expected the Zelvans to know. Lyra squeezed his hand, grounding him. "We're here together," she said. "You can do this." The Zelvans extended their crystalline appendages. Corin, guided by instinct, reached out. The resonance surged through him, memories of the line of Aeloris flooding his mind, visions of ancestors who had forged peace across galaxies, who had understood the language of life itself. His fear dissolved, replaced by clarity. He spoke, not with words but with resonance, channeling understanding to the Zelvans. "We do not seek conflict. We wish only to understand." The towers responded. Lights pulsed rhythmically, and the Zelvans shifted into forms that mirrored Corin and Lyra. Communication began, not through speech, but through shared perception. Corin's heart raced with exhilaration. He had done it. He had bridged the gap. Not alone. Lyra's presence amplified his connection, her trust and openness acting as a conduit. The Zelvans guided them through the towers, revealing data about their civilization, their intentions, and their knowledge of the universe. Corin recorded it all, every detail, knowing it would redefine human understanding of alien life. Lyra's insight helped translate their perceptions into meaningful interpretations, bridging cultural and cognitive divides. When they returned to Colony Theta 9, the Council was astounded. Corin and Lyra had not only established contact with the Zelvans, but they had also opened channels for peaceful collaboration. Corin's name, once associated with suspicion and fear, now carried respect. People no longer avoided him. In shuttle bays, in research halls, in the streets, he was greeted with nods, greetings, and even curiosity. And next to him, always, was Lyra, her presence a reminder of the power of connection, of courage, and of willingness to see beyond fear. One evening, Corin and Lyra stood on the observation deck of Colony Theta 9, watching the nebulae swirl in colors that no human mind could name. He turned to her, feeling the weight of everything they had been through, the isolation he had known, the bridges he had built. "You changed everything," he said quietly. You made it possible for me to exist in a world that feared me." Lyra smiled, brushing her hand against his. "You existed all along. I just helped you see it." For the first time in his life, Corin felt complete. Not alone, not feared, not isolated. The galaxy was vast and indifferent, yes, but it was no longer empty. He had found a bridge, and through it, he had found someone who saw him, truly saw him. And that, he realized, was enough to change everything. As the stars blinked against the infinite darkness, Corin and Lyra remained side by side, two beings from different paths, now united in discovery, trust, and the simple power of being seen.